put the Canadian flavor to them, and of course to feel that I got from being a part of the folk revival by listening to people like
Gordon Lightfoot, a Canadian singer-songwriter who was best known for his folk pop successes like If You Could Read My Mind and The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, has passed away at the age of 84, according to an announcement made by his family. His longtime publicist Victoria Lord shared the news that Lightfoot passed away on Monday evening at a hospital in Toronto. Lightfoot's work has been covered by dozens of artists, including Elvis Presley, Barbra Streisand, Harry Belafonte, Johnny Cash, Anne Murray, Jane's Addiction, and Sarah McLachlan, among others. Lightfoot was once referred to as a rare talent by Bob Dylan. The vast majority of his songs were, to a significant degree, autobiographical. The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, which he wrote in 1975, tells the story of the sinking of an ore freighter on the Great Lakes, and the Canadian Railroad Trilogy, which he wrote in 1966, depicts the building of the railroad. "I simply write the songs about where I am and where I'm from," he stated when asked about the inspiration behind his songs. "I take different situations and write poems about them." Lightfoot, who was frequently referred to be a lyrical storyteller, remained fully conscious of the cultural impact that he had. He played the part with great seriousness. "I just like to stay there and be a part of the totem pole and look after the responsibilities I've acquired over the years," he remarked in an interview in the year 2001. Lightfoot got his start singing in the choir at his local church and always had aspirations of being a jazz musician. At the age of 13, he triumphed in a talent competition that was part of the Kiwanis Music Festival that was held at Massey Hall in Toronto. In an interview that took place in 2018, Lightfoot stated, "I remember the thrill of being in front of the crowd. It was a stepping stone for me. It was a stepping stone for us." It was in 1956 when he picked up his first guitar, and in the months that followed, he began to experiment with writing songs. When he was 18, he left for the United States to spend a year studying music there. Lightfoot quickly saw that life in Hollywood was not the right fit for him, and it wasn't long before he moved back to Canada. He vowed to uproot his life and go to Toronto in order to follow his dreams of becoming a successful musician, even if it meant accepting a job in a bank. His debut performance was at Fran's Restaurant, a downtown establishment run by a family and perfectly suited to his folk-oriented musical tastes. By 1964, word-of-mouth praise was beginning to spread about him throughout the community, and audiences were beginning to come out in larger numbers. Lightfoot's song, "I'm Not Sayin'," became popular in Canada the next year, which contributed to the increased awareness of his work in the United States. Lightfoot was already well on his way to making the shift to pop music by the time the folk music boom died down in the late 1960s. "If You Could Read My Mind" was the song that got him his first appearance on the Billboard chart, and it came out in 1971. It peaked at number 5 and has been covered by a variety of artists. In the middle of the 1970s, when both his song and album Sundown were at the top of the Billboard charts, his first and only time doing so, Lightfoot's popularity was at its all-time high. Over the course of his career, Lightfoot was nominated for 5 Grammy Awards and went on to win 17 Jumas, which are Canada's equivalent. Throughout his career, Lightfoot battled a number of health issues, including Bell's palsy, alcoholism, and a ruptured artery in his stomach, which caused him to enter a coma in 2002 and remain there for a period of 6 weeks. In 1986, he was admitted into what is now known as the Canadian Music Hall of Fame, although at the time, it was called the Canadian Recording Industry Hall of Fame. He was honored with the Governor-General's Award in the year 1997, and in the following year, he was inducted into the Canadian Country Music Hall of Fame. Biography of Gordon Lightfoot. Gordon Lightfoot's musical career began at a young age. Growing up in Orillia, Ontario, he learned to play piano and drums before picking up the guitar at the age of 10. His parents were both musically inclined, and his mother was a choir director and pianist. His interest in music led him to perform at local events and eventually to form a band, the Two Tones, with his friend Terry Whelan. In 1958, Lightfoot moved to Los Angeles to pursue a career in music, but he struggled to find success in the competitive music scene. He returned to Canada and settled in Toronto, where he began to make a name for himself in the city's burgeoning folk scene. He was soon signed to United Artists Records and released his first album, Lightfoot, in 1964. The album featured the hit single Early Morning Rain, which quickly became a classic and has since been covered by countless artists. Lightfoot's distinctive voice and intricate guitar work caught the attention of music fans and critics alike, and he soon became one of Canada's most popular folk singers. Over the next few years, Lightfoot continued to release successful albums, including The Way I Feel, 1967, Did She Mention My Name, 1968, and Sit Down Young Stranger, 1970. His songs often dealt with themes of love, loss, and nature, and his poetic lyrics and haunting melodies captured the hearts of listeners around the world. In the 1970s, Lightfoot's popularity continued to soar. His albums Don Quixote, 1972, Sundown, 1974, and Summertime Dream, 1976, all received critical acclaim and were commercial successes. He also became known for his powerful live performances, and his concerts drew crowds of devoted fans. In 1976, Lightfoot suffered a near-fatal illness when an abdominal aortic aneurysm ruptured. He underwent multiple surgeries and spent several months in the hospital, but he eventually made a full recovery and returned to music. He continued to tour and record throughout the 1980s and 1990s, releasing albums like Salute, 1983, East of Midnight, 1986, and A Painter Passing Through, 1998. Throughout his career, Lightfoot has received numerous awards and accolades. He has been nominated for 16 Juno Awards, Canada's top music award, and has won 6 times. He was also inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2012 and received a Lifetime Achievement Award at the 2017 SOCAN Awards. Lightfoot's impact on Canadian music and culture is immeasurable. His songs have become part of the national consciousness, and his voice and guitar work have inspired countless musicians. He is often referred to as Canada's greatest songwriter and is considered a national treasure in his home country. Despite health issues and a slowing of his touring schedule in recent years, Lightfoot continues to perform and record. He remains an active presence in the music world and a beloved figure to his legions of fans.